For this video, we're going to be doing some basic editing of the current materials to create new materials. Let's jump right into it. If we go to the main menu under Tools, Material Database. Okay, so you will be right in the material editor, or the material database editor. And you'll see the fixed data, minimize that for a second, and user data. So those are the two folders that we're going to use in 3Design. Fixed data, of course, is all the pre-installed materials when you installed 3Design. And then user data, excuse me, user data is where you'll store your materials. Under fixed data, of course, you have the same folders you have when you're creating objects, putting material on them. We cannot modify these directly, so you don't have to worry about messing up the materials that are already in there. But what we can do is copy them into our user data folder and then edit them. So let's start with, I'm going to do a simple green gold. So maybe I have a fancy gold metal that has a green tint to it. We don't have a material for that, so let's create one. So I'm going to pick the material that's closest to it. I usually use a white gold as my base color and then work from there. So I'm going to say it's 14 karat, so I'll copy the white gold 14K. Hit the little icon for copy. You do have to click directly on the icon, not the name here. Hit copy, and then scroll down to your user data folder and hit the paste icon. So now we have copy a white gold 14K. You can rename by clicking the rename icon. First highlight the object, rename, and we're going to call this green gold 14K. Okay, now we're ready to edit. Okay, some other things you could do inside your user data folder, of course, is add materials. We'll learn that later in the advanced video. Edit, of course, is what we're going to do now. You can create folders, so if you want subfolders for your materials, have all your metals in one folder, your diamonds and stones in another, etc. So you can organize this by adding folders before you copy it in here. You can delete or remove materials if you want to get rid of them completely. Remember, that's deleting them completely, so they'll be gone. And of course, rename like we just did, and copy and paste. So let's select the green gold material that I've started here and edit it. So we click the edit icon. Okay. So there are 6 different tabs in here. For the basic video, all we have to deal with is the color, and then we'll look at the internal light a little bit later. So the color is done using a color mode. That's using color, using a color wheel, color texture, which will allow us to use an image for the color, and then gradient, which allows us to use 2 colors or multiple colors that graduate between them. So for this, we're going to use a simple color, and we click the little box here. Right now, the color for white gold is white, of course. We click in there, and we're going to kind of pick the green gold color that we're trying to achieve here. Somewhere in that range. It's more yellow usually, with just a green tint to it. Go ahead and validate that. Okay, so the preview does not update live, unfortunately. You have to hit the preview eye every time you make a change if you want to see anything change, and that's to save memory, of course, like a lot of other libraries and menus do. So we just hit preview, and we see our green color here. So if you're not happy with that, we'll edit it a little more. I think I'm going to go a little bit brighter. Okay. Now you can also use the diffuse mixer here to determine how much diffuse you're going to use. Diffuse, of course, is the overall color or color mode that we're adding to the entire object, and we're just using this light green. So it's kind of dull. If we go negative, that'll remove the diffuse color. You're going to get black. If we go positive, it's going to be much brighter. So we can adjust. And as far as the image preview goes, you have the lit model here. That's what's going to look like rendered. And the unlit model, which is using some rendering tricks for the viewport. And this will also be what it'll look like when you're using template rendering. The templates will make it look more like the lit model. So you can adjust some of the things you see in the preview. So if you want to see what it looks like with shadows, and with a background instead of just a black background, or you can turn on and off the floor. So some options to see how it's going to look with different rendering techniques. You can also change the shape you're rendering on. So ball is the default, what it looks like on a box, what it'll look like on a stone, on a faceted gemstone. Not really a gemstone, it's kind of an odd shape, but just to see the faceting a little better. And then what it'll look like on a ring. And since we're building gold, I'm going to see what it looks like on a ring. I think that's pretty close to what I want. Okay, the other thing you want to take a note of is density. This is where we set the density of our object or our material so that later on we can measure it using the weight function. So keep that in mind if you are using specific alloys, especially when you get into platinums and silvers and some white golds. You'll notice that 3Design estimates using the weight tool kind of on the heavier end of the spectrum. That's because we use an average for each material, and we go heavier so that you're estimating heavy and not underestimating for your customers. So if you know your density of the specific alloy that you're using, look it up on the manufacturer's website, or it may come with the materials data sheet. If you know that density, convert it to kilograms, type it in here. You're going to get a little bit more accurate to the metal that you're using. So another great tip trick for making materials, even if you're not just doing it for rendering, is to create your own weights for your materials in here too. So let's go ahead and validate that. And we'll see my green gold is finished here. We'll validate out of that too. And then let's just go ahead and see what it looks like on an object. Throw a ring in here. Okay, so this has the yellow gold from the library in there. We're going to go ahead and highlight that, hit edit material, or set material, sorry. And then you'll see my material in my user folder. Just double click like I would normally. And there's my green gold ring. So experiment with copying different materials and just playing with the colors to create new materials. It's the quickest, easiest way to do it. Let's look at that one more time with a stone. Get rid of that for now. Go back under Tools, Material Database, and we'll find a stone that's similar. So let's say I have a tourmaline, but it's a little bit deeper purple than just the standard pinks that we have already created. So we're going to go to Ornamental Stones. Open that up to, I'm going to go with the light tourmaline, copy, and then scroll down to my user data folder and paste. And then we'll edit the name. Oops, sorry, not edit the name. Click the rename button and edit it. So we're going to call this my tourmaline. Oh, I'm spelling that right. Tourmaline. There we go. So we'll call that my tourmaline. And we'll edit it. So this one I simply want instead of a light pink color, we want to go more of a deeper purple. Not too purple, we still want it to be a tourmaline. And just like that, we have our new tourmaline. Okay, now you may have noticed, let me go ahead and validate that. You'll notice in the stone sections, you'll usually see two copies of everything. You have the Tanzanite AI, etc. The AI stands for auto illuminated. That stone has a light built into it. So on your unlit scenes or in some of your template renderings, the AI version will look a little nicer because it'll be brighter due to the light in the material itself. So if we want to do that for my tourmaline, we'll do the same thing. I'm going to copy my tourmaline and paste it right there. And we'll rename this one to my tourmaline AI for the auto illuminated. And we'll edit the AI version, and we'll go over here to internal light. And there's basic and advanced. Under advanced, you can use a color or a gradient for the lighting. So if you have some fancy lit stones or fancy stones, you want to play around with different lights on it with different colors, you can definitely go a little more advanced with it. I'm going to use just the basic lighting, which is just a white light built in, and we'll add a little bit of lighting and see how it looks lit up. So be careful going too high. It's going to be very glowy, which is a nice effect for certain things, but we want to just add a little bit of light to it so that it renders a little nicer in the previews and unlit scenes. That's it. We go ahead and validate that. Close that out of there. Let's see how that looks on our stone. So we'll change our material. I'll use my AI stone here for this tourmaline. Make it a little bigger. Validate. And you see my tourmaline with the light in it. Like I said, for the viewport, and then if you're going to be working in the rendering engine, with most of your, pretty much all of your templates are using simulated lighting instead of real lighting. So using those pre-lit stones, the AI stones, will help. So that's it for this video for the basic editing. We'll see you in the advanced video, and we'll get really into the details of those different things you could do with material creation.